It's Season 4, Episode 4 of From, and the Man in Yellow is well and truly playing with people in broad daylight to tie into his wider plan. History is repeating itself, and the slaughtering that took place when Victor was younger to the townspeople is something that's well and truly on the horizon now. This episode filled in a lot of gaps and painted a dark direction for the rest of the season. What was the meaning of Boyd's ring? Why was Sarah being tested? What did Julie walk into? And what the hell came out of the lake at the end? Well, I wanted to break down the episode, discuss the main talking points, and share what I thought of Episode 4. Here is From Season 4, Episode 4, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Man in Yellow's dark plan. With Sophia moving in with Sarah in the previous episode, this one centered around hinting to us the sinister plan that the Man in Yellow has and what it is exactly that he wants with Sarah. The switch in personalities that we saw Sophia take in this episode showed that the persona that the Man in Yellow has adopted doesn't come natural to him, and it's actually taking conscious effort to keep up with it. It was a nice touch, and seeing him become Sophia when Sarah knocked and then switch back to the Man in Yellow when she left brought that to light. Sarah's voices came back to her when she got downstairs, and it was here where we found out that it was actually the Man in Yellow that was able to put the voices inside of her head, showing that the Man in Yellow is basically the person that's in control of the town and is essentially the higher power. He's the all-knowing and all-powerful being that is there, hence why Sophia mentioned the higher power to Mariel, because even though Sophia was outside, she knew that she said that she doubted one's existence. The voices that Sarah heard told her to do a pointless task. They wanted her to pour some water from the jug in the diner, to then take a sip and then pour it back. If she didn't do it, then something bad would happen to somebody. We saw Sarah battling with the idea of whether she should give in to the voices in her head, but after her conversation about joining the diner to work in again, she chose to not give in to them. This is because she feels as though she's undergone a journey in regaining the trust of the people in the town again, and that she finally has a sense of belonging. However, because she didn't pour it back into the jug, Sophia fell into the pool and broke her arm. As we know, Sophia did that to herself because she could see and hear that Sarah didn't complete the task that she set her with the voices. This again showed how Sophia can just simply stand there, stare off into space, and know exactly what's happening in the town at all times. When that happened, Sarah ended up running back into the diner and then completed the task. This was all Sophia needed. All the Man in Yellow needed was to see that Sarah was a willing participant and to basically see that he had her right where he wanted her, willing to listen to the voices that he put inside of her head. Yeah, this was a task that was essentially inconsequential and didn't cause any damage to anybody. But what about when the Man in Yellow sends the voices to her mind and tells her to kill somebody or to destroy the food supplies or take somebody prisoner? Like the story of Abraham in the Bible and the task that God sent him to see if he was a loyal servant to God when God tasked him to kill his own son. It wasn't about the act, it was all about seeing how devoted he was, and this is exactly what the Man in Yellow had done with Sarah. This to me shows that the Man in Yellow has a dark plan up his sleeve. We know that the town runs in cycles and loops, and with the boy in white most recently telling Tabitha that she was getting close but they were running out of time. I think the slaughtering that took place in the town all of those years ago is going to occur, and Sarah is going to have a hand to play in it. This was a test, and sadly, Sarah passed the test. Julie Storywalking. By reading the book Adventures of the Grand Goolagog, the character Fred the Storywalker was somebody that was able to travel through chapters in the story, and by leaving bookmarks, he was able to hone in on the time period that he specifically wanted to go to and eventually return there through those very bookmarks. This was something that Julie thought would work for her. She believed that by writing a symbol on a piece of paper, dropping it in the time period and then returning with it in her pocket would be her way of leaving a bookmark. When she did that, because the symbol wasn't on the piece of paper when she returned, she believed that it didn't work. However, I feel like there is the possibility that it actually did, but she just doesn't know it yet because she's still learning. I think that the bookmark is there at that point in time. However, in order for her to go back there, maybe she'll need to remember which symbol she wrote on the paper, and that will be what will lead her back there, rather than it just appearing in her pocket. She'll almost need a key to remind herself of which symbols she puts on the pieces of paper that she leaves in certain time periods, as each symbol will essentially connect to a period of time, but I think it's going to take her a little while to figure that out. When Julie storywalked, she walked to arguably the most traumatic time in the story that she could have walked into. She walked into the period where the Man in Yellow had just slaughtered all of the townspeople and was feasting on them. I do kinda wish that the shot of the man in yellow covered in blood wasn't in the trailer, because I'd say it definitely lost something with that. However, it was still a haunting sight to witness. The sheer blank expression that he had on his face as he was feasting just showed that his mindset was set on feeding. The grey tone that he had in his skin as well made him look far more menacing than how we saw him in the Season 3 finale and the Season 4 premiere. I wonder if he doesn't feed if his skin loses some of its colour, so if we see that change beginning to happen to Sophia, I wonder if that means that she's getting hungry. The look that the man in yellow had when he noticed Julie was one that was filled with concern and panic, and it now makes me wonder if Sophia is going to begin acting slightly different to Julie now that she knows that she's making progress and learning about travelling through time. The importance of Julie going back to that time period is because I feel like not only did it put the man in yellow in her view, and she's now seen him unleashing his full wrath with what he did to the town, so technically what Boyd said about it not leaving the room isn't going to be true anymore. But it was also showing us what's on the horizon for the town, because the cycle is almost reaching that point again, and it also showed us what Victor experienced all of those years ago and justifies why it is that he peed himself when he saw the yellow jacket. Victor literally saw the man in yellow taking bites out of his own mother whilst looking like what he did when Julie saw him. It's no wonder he's traumatized. I feel Julie seeing the man in yellow is going to end up putting more fear into the town, and with Boyd gradually losing control of the town anyway, and him not wanting the town to have any more fear embedded within it than what it currently has, it's going to cause a widespread panic. I thought it was interesting that Victor mentioned how the man in yellow once arrived in a car like everybody else, convinced everybody that he was just like them, but then one day just turned. This is the cycle and the very events that we're seeing taking place with Sophia, so it shows that what the boy in white said about time running out is most definitely leading towards this. Fatima's golem. So we found out why it was that Fatima was getting Elgin to collect all of that dirt. It was so that she could build a golem, a giant statue that essentially protected the people and was a symbol of hope. Before I get into Fatima's story, I've just got to mention how I honestly don't understand how, with the lack of medical supplies and medication that they have in the town, after Elgin had his eye removed with a screwdriver, he's able to just walk around pain-free and without any discomfort. Fatima was building this golem because after everything that happened with carrying around the reincarnation of Smiley, she felt like she was still connected to the monster. She believed that she could feel exactly what Smiley was feeling, and she knew that he could definitely feel what she was going through. He was enjoying the fear that she had, and she knew that he was taking pleasure in that, so she wanted to find a way of counteracting that fear by creating something that would make her feel protected, which is exactly why we saw her building that. It's difficult to know if it will actually do anything or if it will act as a talisman of some kind, but right now all I'm thinking about is how she's going to get that statue downstairs once it's formed. It's going to be so heavy. Fatima, it might have been better to have built it downstairs and not in the attic. Boyd's broken mind. Boyd's mind is in a fractured state, and even though he was grabbed by an arm at Abby's grave from the ground in the previous episode, he's not letting on to anybody that the town is playing tricks on him. It seems like this season is all about Boyd being tested, not only by the town, but also by his own history and morals. For example, last week he recognized Abby in Acosta, and the fact that she was going down this dark slippery slope when looking for ways to escape, and in this week's episode he saw the same in Fatima. He was prepared to just give her space to breathe, but like Kenny said, that space can open up the room for the town to truly get its hold onto her, and Kenny himself even referenced Abby and the speediness in which her mindset transformed. So Boyd not just leaving Fatima on her own was again his way of not allowing history to repeat itself in a town which quite literally does exactly that. Boyd was thinking about Abby, and he opened up a box that had a ring in it, a ring that had the infinity symbol engraved inside of it, something that not only symbolizes loving somebody forever, but in the context of the town, I think the symbol almost represented a loop and that it was just constantly going round and round, just like how the events are in the town. When Boyd was leaving Colony House, he found a ring on the floor and he saw that it had the same engraving as the one that was in the box. However, when he looked in the box, it was gone, but then when he looked at the one that he placed on the table, that one was, and there was just one singular ring and it was in his hand. Is Boyd losing his mind, and is the town playing tricks on Boyd? Well, I think the ring could almost be like a recurring item, like what Tabitha's bracelet is. Could this ring have had different uses and belong to different people throughout the history of the town, which could also point towards Abby being a soul that's trapped there, just like Tabitha and Jade? If Abby is actually a soul that's trapped in Fromsville, I do wonder if the arm reaching out of the ground at the grave in the previous episode was her trying to send Boyd some kind of message. And that could also mean that the ring is a part of that too. After all, we did see Jim, a potential soul that's trapped in Fromsville, trying to send a message to Ethan, so maybe she's just trying to do that as well. I imagine this is an avenue that the show could go down, and it could be explored more over the coming episodes. What came out of the water? During the ending of the episode, with Tabitha, Donna and Ethan going to what they believed could well be the Lake of Tears, we saw some of the other townspeople digging, and when Roger was digging, he saw a rope that was within the ground. When he pulled on it, it ended up releasing a net that had what looked like dolls and mannequins that had been buried beneath the water. We saw these during the trailer, and since seeing it, it's led me to wonder what their purpose could actually be. With there being a focus on different faiths and pathways in this episode, especially with Fatima and her building her golem, I wonder if the mannequins were once used by the townspeople as a way of seeming like some kind of protection that could have been possible. Or on the other hand, could they have simply been there to cure loneliness and make the town feel less empty when there were less people there? Personally, for them to have been buried like that, it makes me think that the monsters or creatures did it because they wanted them out the way, so I do wonder what their purpose could be. This is an ending that's going to provide food for thought over the course of the next week, but I'm hoping we'll get some answers in the next episode. My review of the episode. I thought this was a good episode of the show. I feel it was better than last week, and we got to see the plot progress forward in an engaging way. I think one of my favourite parts of the show this season is Julie's storywalking ability. I love seeing the different time periods that she's going to throughout the town's history, and when she saw the man in yellow in this episode, it showed just how frightening and menacing that he really was. One thing that I am getting frustrated by with Julie's story though is Randall. He's just so moody all of the time. I would say that this season is providing characters that are grating on me slightly. For example, Tabitha's story of feeling useless and the fact that she doesn't believe Ethan in a town where she's quite literally seen some of the most unbelievable things is so frustrating. And Fatima is a character that I just never really felt that connected to. However, on the flip side, I'm really enjoying Sophia in this season. The performance is so strong and she's so haunting. The switch up that she did between the man in yellow and Sophia was perfect, and it was such a good touch. I'm loving the overall tone of this season, with Boyd just feeling a bit helpless and like he's one fracture away from losing it all. It shows the fragility of it all and that he's quite literally at breaking point. The story between Henry and Victor this week was okay, but it only really got good when we saw the drawings of the man in yellow and the trauma that Victor suffered when he saw the man in yellow feasting on his mother. Henry's reaction was most probably all of us in that moment. I am surprised we haven't seen any monsters truly tormenting the town in this season so far. Next week will mark the halfway point, so I'm hoping we're going to get that soon. I'm desperate for some of that action and the town being in disarray. Overall, I thought this was a solid episode of the show. The show is moving at a steady pace, and that's what I'm liking. It's not too slow and it's not rushing things. There's still plenty of time left in this season to get answers, so I'm patiently waiting for it to build towards the man in yellow eventually unleashing terror and tormenting the town in his different ways. So, there you have it, from Season 4, Episode 4, Ending Explained.